Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory what I'm going to talk about today. So just by show of hands, how many people have any type of understanding of the ages of comic books? Just by show of hands. Okay, so you guys know a few of them. Okay. So why listen to me, period? Well, let me put it this way. I started listening to my father talk about comic books, and right around about 1990 I saw Michael Keaton's Batman film, which really struck a chord with me. And then I saw Superman in, right about a year later. And then it has actually affected my artwork along the years as well. So I do have an understanding, a basic understanding of a lot of how these characters work and how they've been portrayed on screen, and I have my favorites along those lines. And it has adapted and changed as I've gotten older. So I guess you could say I'm a little bit more than knowledgeable with certain things here. So throughout comic books, there was particular ages they had to separate just to differentiate a little bit. So we have the golden, silver, bronze, and modern age. Now, as much as I would love to talk about all the ages, we don't have that kind of time. So what I'm going to do is focus on the age that I know the most, and that would be the modern age. Now, the modern age is a 32-year period. So, I mean, because for example, we've got the golden age, which started in 38. We have the silver age, that started in, I believe, 56. The bronze age in 70. And then the modern, which started in 85, 86. So there's no way I can talk about all that. So we're going to focus on just the modern. And you can switch to the next slide. I'm going to focus on this individual here. I am not going to pronounce that last name. I tried too many times, and I'm not going to embarrass myself on camera. So we're just going to call him Matthew. I stumbled upon his article not too long ago, and what he proposed, and it's still in, it's not concrete yet because we're still living in the modern age. He just talked about separating it into 3 parts. So he talked about the dark age of comic books, which would start in 85, 86. He didn't even make that clear, which would go to 2004. And then I think the modern age would start in 2004 to 2011. And then 2011 to the present would be the postmodern era. You can go to the next slide. So dark age of comic books, it's a little bit, I guess I could just provide you a little bit of short context of what was going on during that area. A lot of history still during that time, but we have the unfortunate Challenger explosion in 86. We have Clinton being elected the president in 92? And then we have the terrible Y2K problem in 99. Don't get me started on that one. It was a stupid year. So, next one, please. So, the Dark Age had 2 specific comic books that really kicked it off. Now, we have the Dark Knight Returns, excuse me, I missed that. And then we have the Watchmen. So, what made those comic books very pivotal was that they deconstructed the actual character. They brought them down to the bone of the characters and who they actually were. And it was a little bit of reflection during that time. So it took characters into a way that we hadn't seen before. They brought them down to, I would argue, as being more relatable. We got to see what the grit underneath their fingernails and how it would mean more when they triumphed and conquered their goal or whoever adversary that they were facing during that time. Go ahead. Modern age, 2004 to 2011. Let's see, I mean, we have Obama being elected president. We have, let's see here. We had, yeah, I'm just going to focus on that one because that one's good enough right there. He's good enough there. Go to the next slide. So during the modern age was actually pretty interesting. So they took what happened in the dark age, which was deconstructing them, but then creators decided to throw another curveball and decided to separate their respective groups. So we have Avengers Disassembled, which took place during an era where a character had a unfortunate psychological break, which was a little bit in the Dark Ages, but they really focused on it during this period, which it does add a new element. And then Infinite Crisis, which was just separating and rebooting everything. Go ahead. Postmodern era, I mean, most of us can kind of understand where we're at in time now. I think the main one that I can think of is the Me Too movement. It started in 2018 more so. Go ahead. And this is actually my favorite era so far, because we talk about Miles Morales in Ultimate's Fallout number 4, where unfortunately a main character, Peter Parker, dies, and we get to see this individual show up, which Peter was very good about bringing teens to kind of comic books to kind of reinvigorate the era during the 60s and 70s. And then we have that being retold again through a different character, this individual looking up to Parker. So it kind of brings a modern perspective on it, and I think that's very, very well done. So you can go to the next slide. So what I'm going to talk about here, or what I'm going to kind of finish up with here, because there's a lot of information here. The modern era had a very interesting time with comic books and how they issued a new type of sub-ages within their period. And it's very interesting to see how even the books that are coming out even this month and how they're going to progress with these characters now. I'm very interested to see where they go to from here. And that'll be shown based on how our culture goes. So, questions? No? That's it.